You think she left you when she walked away, but she actually lost you in her mind long before she said a word. Before the cold texts and the sudden "I need space" talk, she had already started to pull away from you. She stopped being attracted to you and saw you as just another option. But here's the catch. Mental detachment is exactly what makes her want you again. The moment she feels your absence, when you stop reacting, stop chasing, stop proving yourself, that's when she starts to doubt her choice, and she wants back what she thought she could live without. In this video, we'll talk about why this happens, how you can stay in control, and how Stoic principles can help you handle this situation with unwavering confidence. Don't beg or chase them, just changing into the kind of man she doesn't want to lose again. Allow us to begin. First, the breakup didn't begin when she left. A woman's choice to leave isn't quick, because she had been emotionally distant for weeks, months, or even years. She started pulling away long before she actually left the late answers. The fact that she didn't show affection or want to have deep talks were both signs that she was mentally leaving you. At first, she gave you subtle signs. There was less excitement in her voice, fewer texts, and fewer plans for the future. Maybe you thought it was just a phase, or even worse, you got used to her being there and thought she would always be there, but in her mind, she was slowly making a world where you didn't exist. She lost you in her mind first, but now she knows what she really lost when you stopped being available and put self-respect over desperation. She has a different view of you now. Women don't miss the man who chases them. They miss the man who was solid and present, but is now strangely absent, and that absence makes her wonder if she was wrong. Don't miss something important. The man she used to think was dependable is now a mystery. The one she thought she understood is now impossible to read. That's the power of being present and then being absent. But here's the question, are you still the same man she left, or have you grown beyond the version of yourself she left? A breakup can be the end or the beginning of something new. The real test isn't whether she wants you back, but whether you even want to go back. A man who has truly evolved isn't waiting for her to come back. He's moving forward with or without her. Number 2, the subtle signs she was. There were always small but undeniable signs that she was letting go. She stopped arguing, caring, and texting as much, and she stopped feeling the need to. At first, you thought it was just a phase, but she was actually mentally separating herself from you and getting ready to leave. Women don't leave when they're mad. They leave when they don't care about you anymore. This is the truth that most men don't realize until it's too late. You think the breaking point was the fight, the last conversation or the last message she sent, but she lost you in her mind first, long before she actually left. She thought about what could have happened, weighed her feelings, and slowly let go of the attachment. The moment she truly detached, you became a distant thought instead of a present feeling. His rule was easy to understand, but very strong. Most men fail at this because they think she's still the same woman who once clung to them, cared about them, and put them first. But emotions don't go away overnight. They fade over time. As soon as a woman acts like she doesn't care, the relationship is already in trouble. And here's the irony. When you start to notice these signs, the worst thing you can do is panic and start chasing her down and sending her a lot of messages trying to talk things out. It only confirms what she already knew. She was right to leave. Chaos in your emotions doesn't bring someone back. It pushes them farther away. A stoic man doesn't beg for her return or act out of fear of losing her. He accepts reality no matter how uncomfortable it is. He sees the shift, admits it, and changes his plans. When you stop trying to get her to come back, she starts to remember not because of your words, but because of the space you create. The absence speaks louder than any plea. It forces her to sit with her own thoughts and think about what she truly lost. That's when she starts to feel the weight of it, when she realizes that the man she used to take for granted is no longer standing there waiting. Tell me, have you ever been through this change in a relationship? How did you handle it? Leave your thoughts in the comments, or if this message spoke to you, just type, "I see things as they are." By sharing your thoughts, you not only help yourself deal with your own problems, but you also help others who may be going through the same thing. Number 3, her false sense of freedom. When she walked away, her false sense of freedom made her feel like she had won. She was strong and sure she had made the right choice. There would be no more arguments or agreements. Being free, starting over, she told herself that life without you would be easier, happier, and even exciting. But that's the thing about illusions, they don't last. At first, everything seemed to support her choice. The rush of independence, the thrill of being noticed by new people. She thought she had won an exciting battle over her own life, so she mistakenly thought that the lack of tension meant she was happy. Distracted myself thinking it would make me happy, but slowly, truth started to creep in. The thrill wore off as the nights went by and new things were done. Nothing filled the void you used to have, because freedom without meaning isn't freedom at all. It's just a way to get away. Epictetus once said that people are not disturbed by things but by how they perceive them. She thought that you were the problem and that leaving would make her happy, but feelings are temporary and the mind sees things differently when it's not tied to the present moment. She convinced herself that she didn't need you and that life would be better without you. And for a while she believed it. But then the absence of what was real and deep started to weigh on her. Maybe it hit her when she reached for her phone and realized she had no one who truly understood her. Maybe it was when she laughed but felt nothing inside. Seneca wrote that we suffer more in our minds than in real life, and now she's suffering because of what she's missing. She let go of you because she thought she would gain more, but now she realizes she lost something rare. That's why she wants you back, not because she's lonely or bored, but because she can see things more clearly. She lost you in her mind, but now she can see how much it cost her in real life. Fourth, your absence caused. It left a hole in her life that she hadn't seen coming. She had been counting on you to fight for her and beg you to chase after her, to make her feel like she was irreplaceable. Deep down, she thought that no matter what she did, you'd still be there, waiting, hoping, lingering in the shadows of her uncertainty. But you didn't do anything. You disappeared, went quiet, and didn't post emotional messages. You didn't try to stay friends. You didn't even acknowledge her absence, and that's what unsettles her, because in her mind, she had already lost you before she ever admitted it to herself. See, when a woman begins to disconnect, she does so mentally first. Long before she walks away, she starts seeing you as someone she could live without. She convinces herself that life will go on, that your presence is something she can replace, and often she expects you to make that transition easier for her through desperate texts, late-night calls, or endless attempts to win her back. But you gave her none of that. Most men crack under the weight of rejection. They let their emotions dictate their actions, flooding her inbox with messages that scream insecurity. But a Stoic man understands that true power isn't in reaction, it's in restraint. He doesn't need to prove his worth to someone who walked away. He doesn't need to win her back. Instead, he turns inward, focusing on what he can control: his peace, his growth. When a man walks with quiet confidence and doesn't look for approval, Chase doesn't beg. He forces a woman to face the hole he left behind. And all of a sudden, the idea that she could easily replace him starts to fall apart. When it comes to partnerships, this effect is even stronger because of how often we take things for granted until they're gone. Your absence now reflects back everything she threw away and ignored. She thought she lost you when she left, but the truth is, she lost you in her mind first. Now she wants you back, not because of words or apologies, but because your silence spoke louder than anything you could have said. Instead of trying to convince her of your worth, you became a man of such worth that she had no choice but to see it for herself. A Stoic knows that attachment is the source of suffering and that needing someone to return is a weakness, but becoming so whole and stable that others are drawn to him is power, which is why she finds herself thinking about you again. Number 5. The nervous roller coaster, the confusing emotional wave. She can't describe wave, she can't describe. She feels better at first, then starts to wonder what's going on, and before she knows it, she misses you. She left hoping for freedom and happiness. Maybe she thought she needed time alone or thought she could do better, but instead of the clarity she was hoping for, she is now drowning in a storm of feeling. After relief, interest sets in. What are you doing? Why haven't you reached out? Turns into, what are you doing? Why aren't you broken? Why aren't you chasing? Is the question she can't avoid. She starts to see things differently when she thinks about the man she thought she could leave behind without a second thought. Now he's the one she can't stop thinking about. And the irony is that it's not because of what you did, it's because of what you didn't do. A Stoic man knows that emotions are temporary illusions that cloud judgment. He doesn't let them control his actions. He doesn't beg or plead for her to come back because he knows that his worth isn't based on someone else's temporary feelings. While she's lost in her own web of uncertainty trying to figure out her emotions, you stay steady, unshaken, and confident. That's what makes you so strong again. She first lost you in her mind before she realized it in real life. When she left, she thought you'd break down and try to convince her she was wrong, but you did what any man who knows his worth would do. You let her go. You didn't give her the reaction she was hoping for. You didn't follow the script she had in her head, and that's why she wants you back. Now that you're not here, the silence is louder than anything you could have said. The quiet, the distance and lack of pursuit are forcing her to stop and think about what she really lost. That's when she realizes she didn't just lose a man, she lost the man who was secure, the man who didn't need to prove anything, the man who stood firm in his own self-respect. You see, attraction isn't about proving you're worthy. It's about having a mindset that other people find attractive. That's why when she lost you in her mind first, she unknowingly set the stage to want you back. Take a moment to think about this. Have you ever noticed that real strength isn't in chasing, but in standing firm? That silence can say more than words could ever say? Let me know what you think in the comments, or if this hits home for you, just type "strength is in stillness" below to keep the conversation going. 6th, she sees you differently. She starts to compare you not only to other men she meets, but also to the version of you she remembers. What's most unsettling is that you don't seem to be suffering. Women expect men to struggle after a breakup. They expect late-night texts, sad social media posts, or some other desperate attempt to get the ex-girl back. But you didn't give her any of that. No longing looks, no cryptic messages. She doesn't react at all because the man she sees now isn't the same man she left. He's stronger, more composed, and more focused. A man who hasn't been broken by heartbreak, but has been changed by it. And that's what she never expected to see before she lost you. In reality, she lost you in her mind first. When she walked away, she told herself that she was leaving behind someone predictable, someone who would fall apart without her. That's how she justified her choice. She needed to believe that you weren't what she wanted and that she was making the right choice. But time has a way of showing the truth. And what does she see now? You were a man who didn't beg, chase, or try to convince her of his worth. Instead, you were the epitome of Stoicism. You accepted what you couldn't change and focused on what you could. She thought she had the upper hand. She thought you'd be waiting in the shadows for another chance, but instead you moved forward with an unwavering presence. That's when the doubt sets in. Now every guy she meets is judged by the you she remembers, but worse, by the you she never fully appreciated. She starts remembering times when you showed strength, when you were there for her, and times when she didn't realize how I realized how much worth you really added, and now your absence isn't just a void. It's a mistake. A calm man doesn't play games, doesn't act out of spite, and doesn't let his feelings control what he does. Instead, he just changes like Marcus. He said, Aurelius, what was blocking your progress becomes the path you need to take. Heartbreak didn't make you weaker, it made you stronger. She sees this now, and that's why she wants you back. Not because she's lonely or bored, but because she's realizing that she lost you in her mind first, and that's where she wants you back the most. Number 7. She's the one wondering now. At first, she wasn't thinking about you much, maybe a random thought here and there. But then something unexpected happens and her curiosity grows. She opens your profile for a second to see whether you've been going out and living your life. She doesn't see any signs of pain, sadness, or regret. This is not how she expected things to go. What she thought would be an easy decision is now haunting her, because while she assumed you would wait in emotional limbo, you did the opposite. You thrived, you moved forward, you became more attractive. Not because you played games, but because you truly let go. And that's when the paradox of desire kicks in. What is scarce becomes valuable. What is hard to reach becomes desirable. But let's take this deeper. Why does this happen? Because she lost you in her mind first. Before the breakup, before the final conversation, she had already started to detach. Maybe she told herself that you weren't as exciting anymore, that she could find someone better, that losing you wouldn't hurt as much as she once thought. So when she walked away, she felt confident in her choice. But what she didn't consider is what would happen when her mind started catching up with reality, because in her mind, she had already grieved you before leaving. She thought she had already moved on in her head, and yet now she's the one feeling the absence. She sees your silence, and it unsettles her. She expected your presence to remain lingering, waiting, hoping, but instead she finds nothing. No reaching out, no sad posts, no attempts to fix things. Instead, she sees you growing, evolving, becoming something more. A Stoic doesn't chase. A Stoic accepts reality as it is and chooses their response with wisdom. You did what the great philosophers of the past would have advised you. You detached from what was no longer yours to control. You didn't waste time begging for what was lost. You focused on yourself, on your growth, on your peace of mind, and that's what shifts the dynamic entirely, because now she's the one feeling uncertain. She's the one staring at her phone, wondering if she miscalculated. She's the one replaying moments in her head, realizing that maybe, just maybe, she made a mistake if you've made it this far. You know, the power of choosing yourself over chasing someone who walked away. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever seen how stepping back changes everything? Share your experience in the comments. Or if this message hits home, just type "Strength is in letting go." Let's see how many are on this journey of self-mastery. When her interest turns into action number 8, Interest can only go so far before it makes someone do something. She starts asking common friends about you and looks at old pictures and reads old messages again. She thinks that maybe, just maybe, she did something wrong, and then she texts. It might not be a full confession, it might just be a small, casual message like, "Hey, hope you're doing well," or a comment on one of your posts. It's a message that seems innocent at first glance, but has deeper meanings that aren't said. Before she sent that text, she changed how she felt about you. Maybe she thought you weren't stepping up enough. Maybe she thought the spark had gone out. Or maybe she thought she could do better. Whatever the reason, she convinced herself that leaving was the right thing to do. You were already gone before she left, and now she's realizing that the world without you isn't as exciting as she thought it would be, and the attention she once craved from others doesn't feel as good. Don't have the thrill of something new, realizes that real connection is hard to replace, and worst of all, she starts to see the one thing she never expected. You're fine without her. Think about it this way. A queen will only respect a king who stands firm. If he gives up at the first sign of her return, he wasn't strong to begin with. A stoic man values himself more than the idea of her return. He doesn't live in the past holding on to what was, but instead focuses on the present, his growth and his purpose. She has to agree to terms that don't hurt his pride if she really wants to be a part of his life again. When she reaches out, the real question isn't whether you should respond, but whether she deserves to be able to talk to you again, since your worth isn't up for discussion. Number 9, if she comes back, it has to be on your terms. She's not just coming back because she wants to. If she comes back, it should be on your terms. If she acts interested in you again, it means she wants to reconnect. But this is where most men fail. They see her return as proof that she's suddenly perfect again, that everything is back to how it was, and that she needs to be let back in because she finally realizes what she lost. A calm man doesn't think this way. He knows that feelings, especially longing for the past, can lead to illusions. If someone feels bad about leaving, that doesn't mean they deserve a second chance. Feeling bad about leaving is not the same as saying, "I miss you." Change is easy to prove, but doing the right things over and over again is a whole other story. She lost you in her mind long before she left you, literally. That's why she's back now. She thought you would always be there. It was clear to her that her choices wouldn't have any long-term effects. She thought she could leave and come back whenever she wanted, but something changed. She started to feel the weight of your absence. She thought you would wait to reach out and stay the man she left behind, but when she came back, she found that you had changed without her. That realization hurts and shakes the ego. When someone realizes they've lost something truly valuable, they panic and play over their choices over and over. In their mind, trying to figure out how they let it slip away, they tell themselves a story about how they were just confused and made a mistake. But here's the difference. You're not the same man she left you for. You didn't waste time waiting, beg, or lose yourself trying to hold on to someone who had already left. Instead, you turned inward, built discipline, focused on your mission, and strengthened your sense of self. You didn't just survive the loss, you thrived in its absence. Now, the real question isn't should I get her back? It's should she be compatible with the man I've become? If she left you when you were weakest, why should she be able to see you when you're strongest? It was Marcus Aurelius who said that the happiness of your life rests on the thoughts you have. If a man has done the work to sharpen his mind, strengthen his will, and build self-respect, he won't let someone back into his life just because they miss him. He needs more than apologies, sweet words, and nostalgia. He needs proof. And proof isn't just about effort in the moment. It's about long-term consistency. Is she willing to show up, not just when she's lonely, but when real effort is needed? Is she here because she sees and values who you are now, or because she just wants to get back what she lost? Remember, she did lose you, and whether she gets another chance is now up to you. Number 10. You were never the one who lost, never the one who lost. From the outside, it seemed like she won. She was the one who walked away. She was the one who moved first, but in the end, who truly came out stronger. She lost you in her mind first, but you found yourself in reality before she physically left. She had already started pulling away in her thoughts. She convinced self that life without you would be better, that she wasn't missing out on anything. Maybe she thought you'd always be there, that your presence was something she could take for granted, but while she was crafting this illusion in her mind, you were facing the real world. You were forced to look in the mirror and decide, will I let this break me, or will I become better because of it? And that's where the difference is. She lost you in her mind long before she walked away. But while she was chasing distractions, you were sharpening yourself in solitude. While she tried to fill the void with fleeting attention, you embraced the void and turned it into strength. You leaned into the discomfort, you accepted the pain, and instead of running from it, you let it refine you. You didn't win because she wants you back. You didn't win because she regrets leaving. You won because you didn't let her absence figure out your worth. A man who knows his worth doesn't need to be validated. He becomes it. That change is what makes her suddenly see you differently. When a woman pulls away, she expects you to chase after her, to prove your worth to her. But what happens when you don't? What happens when you turn that loss into power? She starts to see you through new eyes. The man she thought she left behind is no longer the same. He's stronger, wiser, and more composed. That's the paradox. When you stop seeking, the S becomes the seeker. She thought she could move on easily, but now she realizes something. The man she let go of doesn't exist. The man she knew is gone, and in his place stands someone greater. That's what makes her want you more than ever. So what's the real lesson? It's not about making her miss you. In the end, becoming a man so solid and sure of himself that she realizes what she lost on her own. Because when you stop chasing and choose silence over desperation, the dynamic changes completely. You go from being someone she used to know to someone she now wonders about, and that mystery, that presence followed by absence, is what stays in her mind. But here's the deeper truth. This isn't just about her. It's about you too. Every setback, every rejection, and every moment of doubt is a chance to grow. A man who builds himself doesn't wait for someone to see his worth. When you do that, the right people will either come back to you or, even better, you'll realize you've outgrown them. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever noticed that someone went away and then came back after you stopped giving them your energy? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I read all of them. If you found this video helpful, hit the like button and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. But don't leave just yet. Check out the recommended videos on the screen. They'll go even deeper into how to master relationships with a Stoic mindset. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.